So week 8, what a week it was in fantasy football. So this is the top 5 quarterbacks of week 8, and number 1 was Patrick Mahomes. And go figure, we figured versus weak Jet defense, Patrick Mahomes would have a bounce back game after only getting 13 fantasy points last week. And this week he didn't disappoint with a huge 416-yard and 5 passing touchdown game. Mahomes, he came out firing with that Kansas City offense, and now he's the number 1 ranked player in fantasy football after that huge performance with 47 fantasy points for Patrick Mahomes. It's just going to get better for him. Obviously, he's got Carolina and then the bye, but Mahomes, what a season he's had once again this year, and that's why he was the number 1 drafted quarterback going this year. I've seen some leagues this year where Lamar Jackson was the first quarterback off the board, and that's a huge mistake, obviously, looking at what we know now. So this was Mahomes' second 45-plus point fantasy day, and what a season he's having. He's just putting the ball up. Tyreek Hill had a great game. Kelsey, best tight end. So Mahomes, he was the first quarterback of the week. The second one, Russell Wilson, the MVP leader, in my opinion, with 36 fantasy points. 261 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 23 rushing yards. And Russell Wilson, every week, he's going to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback each and every week. And he did it again yesterday. He got off to a slow start versus San Francisco, but then he got it going. And he carved them up. And DK Metcalf was the catalyst also in that. But he started getting going in the second quarter. Him and Metcalf, it was this week, instead of him and Lockett, but it don't matter who it is. Russell Wilson, this guy's a gamer. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and if you drafted him this year, lucky you, because this guy's winning a lot of games for your fantasy teams. The third guy on the list is Matthew Stafford with 28 fantasy points. He had 336 yards, 3 touchdowns in it, though, and a fumble loss. So Matthew Stafford, his team is a mediocre team at best. They're going to be in and out of a lot of ball games where he's going to have to put the ball up a lot. And the funny thing is, Kenny Golladay had no fantasy points, and Stafford still put up a 28-point effort. And Stafford next week, he has Minnesota Vikings in Minnie, so that's another game indoors, which is great with the weather getting worse as the winter months are coming on. So Matthew Stafford, once again next week, he could have a 25 to 30-point day for fantasy. So he was the 3rd best quarterback coming in. The 4th is Aaron Rodgers. He got off to a crazy hot start versus Minnesota, but then he slowed down in the second half as Rodgers, and the Packers took a big upset loss in a division matchup. But Rodgers still a great game with 28 fantasy points as well, with 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 yards rushing, and a fumble loss. Rodgers and Adams, they might be the best duo in the league. It's very close. Rodgers was hitting Adams. Tanyan, he had a decent game. Jamal Williams, once again, a good fill-in game for Aaron Jones out of the backfield. So Rodgers was the 4th best quarterback. And coming up for Rodgers next week, he's at San Francisco Thursday night. That'll be a little bit of a tough matchup, I think, especially on the short week. And then he's got Jacksonville. But Aaron Rodgers, he's had a great season, and he's definitely been a top 5 quarterback this year. And the 5th and final guy at quarterback who had a good week and surprising is Phillip Rivers, 262 yards and 3 passing TDs. So this is the second week in a row Rivers has had 28-plus fantasy points. He looked good. His running backs got the ball a lot out of the backfield and stuff. He hit Trey Burton, got it going for him. So, and Phillip Rivers, he's got Baltimore next week, so he won't be on this top 5 list. But Rivers, he's been putting up solid numbers, and he was a waiver ad in my waiver wire pickups for the quarterback. So that's the top 5 performing quarterbacks in week 8 of fantasy football.